Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
I think that these 2 days, okay, so today is going to be mostly individual with some team-specific team practices. So, like, you'll do red zone, you'll do inside, outside, you'll do, like, scale, you'll do some of those things. Tomorrow is going to be much more of a scrimmage. So, this is the day where you finally get the test on the offensive line, which you saw that in the first preseason game, but offensive line and defensive line, that's what you can take the most away from this from. You know, wide receivers, secondary, they can do all their stuff without pads, whatever else. Interior line play, almost impossible without pads. So them going against somebody else. We know the 49ers D-line's one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. How are they going to fare against this Vikings defense? That's what I'm most interested in.
Yeah, definitely. And to me, this is the first test that we're really seeing where the starters can go at it because it's not their own team anymore. It's really going against another team. And I mean, for the offensive line, how does the offensive line hold up against that Vikings defensive line that has a couple of good players on its own? And then how does the Vikings defensive line or Vikings offensive line hold up against our defensive line? And we've seen some of the initial returns so far, as well as how does Trey Lance play against the first team cornerbacks? Because if you didn't know, Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley both are out of team drills. Mosley did return to practice, I believe, today.
Yes,
but they're
huge.
They're both out of team drills. So that means that the 49ers haven't really had their top two corners out. So you're getting their top two corners out here when you're going against the Vikings.
And yeah, Eric Armstead and Emmanuel Mosley came back. They're practicing, not fully. They're doing individual drills, slow ramp up, but that's great news. But yes, you are correct. Still a lot of players out. I mean, you've got two starters in the secondary that aren't out there, and Jimmy Ward, he's got a while to go. And Charvarius Ward, I think they're just going to keep him out until it's time for the season. I do expect Ward to be back week one, not Charvarius Ward back week one, not Jimmy Ward back week one. But yeah, so you're going to get a test because you're going to get up against one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver tandem in the NFL, and Adam Thielen and Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson's as good as anybody. So this is going to be good. It's going to be a test because their wide receivers and our wide receivers, completely different skill sets. They play the same position, but it's completely different. We have a physical kind of contested catch modus operandi. They do not. That's not what they do. They are skilled route runners that create space and go get the ball. So it's going to be a little bit of a different challenge for the 49ers secondary.
Right, and that actually brings us right here to this comment. Lenore and Ambry Thomas having a rough day. Well, you would expect them to have a rough day because Deommodore Lenore is lined up against Justin Jefferson, and Ambry Thomas, I believe, is lined up against Adam Thielen, two top receivers. So, I mean, especially when it's in this setting, I would expect backup level cornerbacks to have a rough day against frontline level wide receiver starters. So take it as you wish, worried or not. I think both of them haven't, like, Lenore had a strong start to camp and then has pretty much played average the rest of the way, while Ambry Thomas has been struggling, obviously, in camp. So we can start with those two. How do you what are you thinking about those two cornerbacks, about the depth chart behind our top two corners? And would you be okay with one of them having to start a game if, or with this 49ers team, it's when we see an injury to the top two corners?
Man, I would say I feel much more confident in Deommodore Lenore because, you know, if you look at the preseason game, which, you know, he was much more consistent and in phase, right? So one of the things, the coaching technique with corners, who's in phase, who's out of phase. Ambry Thomas out of phase way too often. His transition step, whenever he's changing from a shuffle to from a back pedal to a shuffle, or, a shuffle to open it up and turn it and running, he just loses so much ground when the ball's in the air. You don't see that so much with Deommodore. And Deommodore is a better tackler. I don't want either one of them getting starter reps, but if we had to, I would feel way more comfortable with Lenore, which is crazy coming after what we saw last year with Ambry Thomas getting us into the playoffs, and his game seemed to be trending upwards, has not had the best off season. So how long is it going to take for him to get back to where he was He's not there right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And if we're speaking objectively, I've pointed out during the training camp period that throughout training camp, Lenore was the better cornerback. And you could make the argument that a guy like Tariq Castro Fields has even played better than Ambry Thomas overall. And so, yeah, I do agree with you that Lenore is likely the first man up. But it is good to see that because of the injuries, they're going to get essentially thrown in the fire. And if you're going against these top cornerbacks, I'm okay if you get deep, burned deep. Just play them where they're most comfortable. With Ambry, that's press man. Play him in press man. If he gets grabby, he gets grabby. But you got to learn through those reps. So this is the best way to do it against top
Yeah.
corners. Play him in press man, throw him in the fire, and see how it works.
And the other
Yeah, go
corner
ahead.
you didn't bring up was Kader Holman, who
Yeah,
he got sliced up. He's been getting snaps ahead of Diamador Lenore all
yeah.
camp and in the preseason. He did make a couple good plays, but it
Not a great
showed
first start, we'll say. Yeah.
it was rough. It was rough.